Greetings and salutations from one dapper dude here at our favorite floating city. I am Jarvis, and with me today is Captain Tyler. And this week we're going to be talking about basically the recreation of Jumptown as an event, and of course the updates coming to Arena Commander. Before we get started, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Hero. He's a subscriber here. As I slowly choke, 1 second here. I have the cloggiest throat in the past few weeks. I do apologize. All right, so anyway, he invited me to play the Back 4 Blood beta with him, and I played quite a few rounds. He had quite a few crashes on the first level, and but we managed to get through and play the entire sequence they had on there. And later on, Lightning Dragon joined us, and we were all played together and had a lot of fun. The game needs a bit more polished, needs some bugs worked out, but for those of you who loved Left 4 Dead, the pacing on it is actually has those moments where you have you can slow down and regroup and be a little more tactical. And also the cards and the things that you can add in the effects at every time you beat a level, you could add another effect, whether it's more ammo or maybe more accuracy or so on and so forth. It really adds a nice randomness to the game, and some rooms are open and some levels sometimes they're not. So it's actually, even though the maps are relatively static, there's some variety within those maps that lets things be a little bit different each and every time you play. Pretty fun, and I just wanted to thank Hero for inviting me to try that, and it was a lot of fun, and I hope we can do something like that again. Whether or not I'm going to be getting the game, I'm not exactly sure. I want to probably follow the development, but Lightning Dragon seems interested, and so we'll see how that goes. And maybe I'll get a copy for my brother if we go that route. Yep, Hero is my hero. Also, don't forget that this Wednesday, CIG is opening up Star Citizen for another free fly week. So grab your 30Ks and pull. It's going to be a pretty interesting event. Never really too happy with free fly events, particularly right now where you have a lot of imbalance issues between ships. You're going to have a lot of people who are they're going to experience.
It doesn't showcase the game very well when
Yeah,
you
and
get a bunch of players. On like
that's
downloading the games the first time, the servers go wanky.
right, and that's why I've always wanted to do the staggered approach. Like if someone makes an account, you would be given access to a game for a certain amount of time, and then you'd be reinvited every once in a while. Hey, you tried this game last build, and here's your week opportunity. Instead of piling everybody in at once, I thought it'd make more sense to stagger in people who have created an account. Like when you first create an account, Star Citizen, you're like, okay, make an account, try it for a week. And then every build, every 3 months, you can come back and check the progress. And it doesn't always have to be piled in at once. And this, I think, would spread it out and make things. Of course, if they did that way, then they couldn't have their massive sales. But nothing says you couldn't offer like the sales to like a 3.15 sale to anyone who gets to try 3.15. Say, and while you're trying it, these ships are on sale. For that individual, anyone who's doing the testing phase or the trial phase will have access to certain ships to purchase. I would like to see it spread out a bit more. For the very reason I stated, that when everyone kind of crams into the game at once, you get a lot of server issues, and I'd like to see them basically stagger that. And hopefully that makes sense and doesn't sound too crazy, but I think they could do it, and I think that would be a lot better for everybody. Yeah, free rentals. Free rentals is good. Absolutely. Yeah, let them try anything during that week. But I mean, like the ships you actually purchase on the store, like they typically have every time they release a build, they have like this is the ship that we're selling with whatever build we're on now. So I hope. Oh, by the way, I hope you like my outfit. I'm a dapper dude. Decided to go ahead and dress it up a bit. Yeah. Help teach people to play the game and give them no insurance costs either. Just let them
I'm
try
dead.
it. Hmm?
I
Oh,
clipped to the floor.
Oh, good gravy. That's my job. Well, it's officially a stream. It's just that Captain Tyler is somewhere now in the center of the planet, being crushed to death. Um, press F to pay respects.
Yeah,
He's down there somewhere.
that's funny. It's like,
So
oh,
maybe he'll just
this is
fall all the way
pretty.
through and come back through and land on this balcony. Who's
Let's
to
look at
say?
these plants. Why is the plants gone? Why is
Yeah.
everything white? Oh, look, I'm clipping through the building.
Well,
We.
that's my concern as well. A lot of times, first impressions are the only impression people give, or they'll try something once, and if they find it too buggy, if they find it too many problems, they will never come back to the game, or they will come back to it years and years and years later, maybe. But in some regards, it does bring in new players, but it also can kind of shoot yourself in the foot for other people. It's a mixed bag. So Let me go ahead and switch my perspective here. I thought we'd just hang out here today because I want to do a bit more talking, and I figured I want to focus on the conversation as opposed to just, can I climb up on this thing? Okay. Anyway, then just basically trying to play the game while we're talking, because this is more just a backdrop footage anyway. It's like just enjoying the beautiful scenery here. I love this place. This is my favorite city so far. Um, Obviously, aside from the falling through things to your death factor, but it's really
Bring
nice.
us our
Oh, there he is.
fish.
He's way over there now. He's back. He's back, ladies and gentlemen. He's making his
Hmm.
way out of the hab. All right, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the idea of recreating Jumptown as yeah, hey Tyler has my clipping covered. Um,
Yeah.
Recreating Jumptown as a scripted event, and why, to some degrees, that could
Oh
be a good thing. I mean, in some
no.
aspects, but how largely it's not going to work, I think, the way they expect it to, because it does not completely capture what created Jumptown in the first place, which is the organic experience created by players. And even though it was through a glitch or an error with pricing that created Jumptown originally, and once you get a proper ebb and flow of the economy, these kind of scenarios will happen in different spots and maybe even eventually collect into a single point. So let me switch over on to some footage real quick here. All right, so this is the footage from the Inside Star Citizen. I just kind of compiled it together where they were showing events and whatnot. But Jumptown was originally created by a pricing, a massive way to make profit on illegal goods at a particular place, and basically, obviously, Jumptown. And that people were scramble out there to make a massive amount of money as compared to other things, because let's face it, the cargo running in the game has been relatively lacking. If not, you have to risk a lot with 30Ks, but there's no individual missions that let you just, well, other than single boxes. Nothing like it says fill up my cargo hold that the company pays for. So, and the opportunity arose for people to make a massive amount of money. They all kind of basically bottlenecked, which is what I talked about a lot in the past, is that most of your combat in Star Citizen is gonna happen at points where people are forced to congregate through bottlenecks. When you're out doing deep space exploration or flying around out in deep space, the odds of you encountering another player to engage in PvP is going to be relatively microscopic. It's going to be one of those situations that you're relatively safe, and particularly if you're in an exploration craft or whatnot. The odds of someone just being where you are, I didn't want to try to calculate those kind of odds, even at 1/4 scale of a solar system. That's just, the odds are just super tiny. And so anyway, people got together there. There was always battles ensuing for control of the point to make money. And so what CIG wants to do is convert this into an event that pops up from time to time. Now, this will be the third event that they've created. They have the one that they've been testing this weekend. I'm not a fan of, well, I like the first one more than the concept of the second one. But both of them, the first one that came out, the Xeno threat, had elements of PvP, though I don't think it was intentionally built that way, but you have people basically gaming the system with names and whatnot and doing other things, or just shooting you when you're trying to go into like one of the starfarers to pick up the boxes. People will go in there and just cut you down, and that kind of creates the atmosphere in Star Citizen of, when you see another player, that Grand Theft 5 auto mentality. Grand Theft Auto 5 mentality, basically, where when you see another player, the odds are you're going to have to shoot them or they're going to shoot you. And unfortunately, that is becoming a very common thing. Most times I bump into other players in Star Citizen, they start shooting at me. Ship, whatever. And it's like, I don't get it. I don't engage people like that, but that seems to be the way that most people engage me. Very
Yeah. Pull
frustrating.
trigger, ask questions later.
Exactly. Um, yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm going to talk about there. Here is that the emergent gameplay created Jumptown. Emergent gameplay will make other Jumptowns. They can try to turn it into an event if they want, but that's not going to stop more people from finding new means and new Jumptowns based upon the things that they find in the verse. Um, yeah, of course. Also, yeah, not being able to jump to it. Exactly. So that's another thing I've talked about as well too. The idea that you do these spline jumps, and these spline jumps take you pretty much within, like, what, 30 kilometers of your destination, and it makes things really, really simple to get in and out. I thought spline jumps should not take you into the atmosphere at all. that they should keep you in space. So you have to fly like 100 kilometers down. Now, some people are like, oh, that's too slow and whatnot. But, the idea, this is not supposed to be a quick respawn combat arena, which we'll be talking about a little bit. This is supposed to be something, a living, breathing universe, and travel times are also key to keeping from people from just piling back in really quickly when something's been defeated. This whole respawn, run back down, and travel time is important for thinning out armies or forces as the battle progresses to a clear victor is established.
It's very sad that an aspect like this, made by a fluke, that made it almost feel like a sandbox game, they decided they're going to now make that a in-game programmed event, which will take away the sandbox feel of it.
Right. You take
It's
away the
like,
organic for the
wait a
scripted.
minute, this was made by players by accident. This happened, and they made it more of an event, not an event, but it gave you something to do, and it was interesting. And to some people, it's like, yeah, this is awesome, versus just fly around and delivering 2 boxes. And now you're going to take that away from us and just making an event out of it. It's like, but
Well, that's the thing,
the
though. See,
whole
they can't.
object was the
You
goal.
see, that's the thing, though. They can't take it away from us. And anyone who wants this kind of event, next time the players will come up with another one. It will just keep happening. You can keep chasing the players, or you could start like basically letting the players do what players do in sandboxes. Um, 1 second here. Right, you're right. Static events basically are about memorization instead of adaptation. That's absolutely correct. Like I remember back in the day playing Star Wars Galaxies, there were a few scripted missions. They're mostly to grind money, but generally speaking, the players drove the wars. The players drove the events. The players drove the trading hubs. It was all player driven, and you actually had things, and you had a lot of drama, and you had events going on. It was all there, and it didn't require the developers to step in and lay a lot of hands on it. The story missions that were there as, I guess, uh, an
Build up
underlying.
your faction and your money.
Well, yeah, but later on they added actual story missions, and they were
Yeah.
there, I think, for those people who wanted that kind of thing. But they were a very small amount of the game. Like I said, my friend, he's talked in here a few times. Cade Ristelman, you'll see him in chat once in a while. He used to work for Star Wars Galaxies, and so the idea that basically these scripted events, they were useful, but they on end of the day they weren't the bread and butter of what made Star Wars Galaxies Star Wars Galaxies. In a lot of regards, I use Star Wars Galaxies as a reference because there's a lot of things that game, as much as it did wrong, particularly with the OBE thing, NGE, I mean OBE, I don't know what OBE is, NGE, basically when they came in and changed the system, uh, they got rid of a lot what made the game appealing and really stepped in it. That's a situation where they took the creativity of the player's class and build and then put it into a box. They instead of having this very open kind of card system where you could go absolutely nuts in different directions and come up with crazy combinations, to basically now you're a scripted set of classes and turned it into a WoW clone, and it just tore the heart and soul out of the game. That once again over scripting, over making things too fixed, too focused, and it took a lot of what made the game interesting and took it away. Okay. Yeah, exactly. There's only so many moves in chess, too, right? Exactly. So it said the chess master was saying how the game became static and boring because all the moves had been done at this point in time, and yeah, I completely get that. There's a lot of variations, of course, but everyone's got a counter to everything else. Um, Exactly, yeah. But core Jumptown is buying and selling cargo, which of course you're also taking the inherent risk, not only of the PvP going in, but the 30K is going out. And so yeah, there's some people posting on the forums right now that come out like, is there anything anyone can do to help me? I just lost all my money, and I basically posted on that in the general chat, general forums. I said this is the reason I haven't done cargo runs in several years is because of the fact that it's absolutely been a mess, and I don't miss losing large swaths of cash.
I've seen too many people who go when they do the free ships, and someone gets a free caterpillar, and they go to town and they just fill that thing up and just start making cargo runs, and then all of a sudden 30K comes, they lose their free caterpillar and all their money, everything. They couldn't even rent a ship if they wanted to. It's like,
Yeah, completely and totally destitute. But aside from that, I mean, well, let's go. Let's look at another game that basically had a scenario similar to Jumptown, but on a much larger scale, and that's Eve Online.
Eve
And there's a
Online.
system called JITA.
Cheetah.
Now, when the developers made the system and made a bunch of systems, they didn't say, hey, JITA is going to be the trade hub of the galaxy. That's not what their intention was. But the players, by the way that they moved, the ebb and flow of the way that people traveled and interacted, eventually JITA, burn JITA, JITA became the trading hub of the Eve universe. And that wasn't a scripted event. That was players. And you're right. JITA can be
Oh.
a nightmare. But
You
that
go into Cheetah and see nothing but flashing yellow
mm-hmm,
and then
mm-hmm.
flashing red. If you see flashing red, run.
Run
I
fast.
I got to be where people would hire me because I had a cloaking freighter.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I got out of a jump gate, threw the cloak on, jumped all the way to the station cloaked to give me at least a few extra seconds because it takes that long for them to lock onto me to get into a station to pick up what I bought, come out. Then I'd use I'm trying to remember the jump drive. It was not a jump drive, but there's a speed booster. It's not just a regular booster, but it's actually a booster that I use. It was faster than a thruster
Yeah.
booster. That would get me as far away from the station as possible, so that then I can quickly hit the cloak because the cloak would only work within a certain percentage
Distance, yeah,
certain
from the
distance,
station.
and then quickly jump closest and everything manually. Don't use anything automatic
No, because
because they just
Automac's
love
much
auto
slower. You
freight.
gotta go manual in
Oh
JITA.
my
You got
gosh!
to.
And it was like you're sitting there, your fingers are sweating, your palms are sweating, you're dripping in sweat. You're flying a multi-million-dollar ship with who knows how much cargo you've bought with Tech 2 equipment and yada yada yada. And it's like, and you're seeing people explode out there, and you're like, oh my gosh! And now there were other trade hubs that started expanding from JITA in different sectors of space, but and they became kind of like mini JITAs,
But nothing took
but they
JITA's
still were
title.
not JITA.
Yeah.
JITA, you walk in and look to your left or wherever you put your people in local, and like, oh my gosh! And you watch the frame rate,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
it's like,
I was going to mention
oh
the frame rate.
gosh, no!
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Stealth was the only time I ever went to JITA something in stealth,
yeah.
unless I knew I was picking up something there, like a ship that I couldn't haul, and then I would go in on a shuttle, and then make sure I had enough bought stuff there. But most of the time, I got to the point where I would fly a large ship that was big enough to haul it, a package ship. And then I would, if I couldn't cloak it, then I rigged that thing up to be a speed demon to get me to gates.
Oh
So
yeah.
that,
And
but
and you'll see with Star System.
that whole
Yeah.
market was made from players,
Exactly, and you'll
and
see in time with Star System when we get the 100 systems by the year 3028, that basically that we'll see the players eventually find that hub, that central part, and there was another point I think that Disco Lando brought up, and I was in adamant disagreement about, talking about basically how rewards. Basically the high risk, high rewards tied to PvP or something like that. And it's still a point I heavily disagree with. Particularly, I consider it to be one of the largest failings at Eve is setting all the best resources into
in
the
low
in low
sec,
sec, forcing people who don't want to deal that into
low
that.
and null.
Now you can go ahead and you can basically you don't have to just low sec it. You can basically say, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and there's some good resources in a Vanduul control territory, and then players who prefer PvE can go ahead and risk exploration with larger groups or even by themselves if they're really, if they want to keep their sig small, going into those riskier PvE zones to also acquire the same materials, resources, and equipment. It's important to allow players, particularly because if you look at the poll, and once again, I feel like I have to keep pulling this up, so pardon, it's a white background, so prepare to get Sega a little bit. But this whole poll where people have, and it's a little outdated, but the new one's out, and it's a few months old, but the trend hasn't changed at all. The trend has continued as ever. And as you can see, most people here, they're interested in doing non-combat kind of roles. So you can't ignore them. You can't just go ahead and pretend that these things aren't You can't just shove everything into the combat. Now, if you look at combat, once again, this is a few months old, but the trend hasn't changed. You have here 20% want to be combat pilots, and of those, just because you're combat doesn't mean you want to do PvP. Could mean you want to do combat PvE. So let's go ahead and give them 50% of those want PvP, and 50% want PvE. You're looking at basically 10% PvP, and by the time you get down to combat pilot, and by the time you go all the way, and it's not a big enough number to sustain that as forcing everything high wealth, high reward out into the PvP zones. So the thing is that you can't ignore 90% of your player base to which is for a large part is often felt that way in Star Citizen. It's always felt for the longest time that the idea has been focused around blowing things up, blowing people up, stealing stuff from people, piracy. But the vast majority of players want something else, and they have to take note of that, and they have to be sure to incorporate those things for those players who prefer to have that gameplay experience. They call it Jumptown 2.0. Yeah. Yeah, that should be better than the original according to 2.0. Yeah. Yeah. So a high risk, high reward is not necessarily indicative of just a PvP environment. So, as I said to someone on there, you cannot force somebody to play PvP to get what they want, but you can incentivize them to play a different game. And we don't want that. It's important to keep the community strong. It's important to encourage people to continue playing, to grow the community. And if you're not embracing that which the community has very clearly shown a gigantic interest in, like you could have riskier exploration to find artifacts or a lost cache of weapons or whatever in riskier zones, where you have you and a group of people take a Carrack out to do deep space exploration to find a lost ship. You can do all these kind of things that don't involve, you bring some fighters with you as escorts or whatever, some other players, and you all work together as a group doing a PvE event, and on the quest for the lost fleet or something. I don't know, and go from there. So the options are there. It's just up to their imagination. I wonder if the fire propagation works on my pants. Let's see.
Pants.
Oh, I'm dying.
Are you really?
I'm actually dying.
So that's not the walking on hot coals.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm toasty. I'm not catching fire, but at least they took this consideration here. I'm just gonna go ahead and die because I take it. I'll be right back. Ah. Oh yeah. So look at that.
Hey, your feet still in the fire.
Feet are still in the fire. What else is new? All right. I put my feet to the fire. Port
Hey,
Olis.
what's
That's
the
not Port
smell
Olis,
out
are.
here?
There you go. Okay.
And
Fix
what a
that.
stink.
Yeah. I left the stinkiest part of me in the fire. All right.
Oh.
So I'm that was kind of cool because I wanted to see if they took the consideration to actually to do that in the game. So they did. That's great. I was just hoping I would actually catch fire though. But maybe down in the future with fire propagation, I can run around lighting the whole bar up. That'd be hilarious. So yeah. Anyway, guys, so what are your thoughts on the idea of a third event? This one, by the way, it sounds like it's going to be heavily scripted to be a PvP event. And this would mean that basically we've got 2 PvP events and 1 PvE event. And that is, once again, I'm talking about the ratios. When you look at the massive ratios of people looking for PvE experiences, and you've got now 2/3 of the events coming out particularly focused on PvP, to me that's a bit of a disconnect between your customer base and what else is going on. A second here. Right. Yeah, you're right. The events are right now pretty much only the interactions we do get in the universe at the moment. Particularly because once again we go back to the concept of gameplay loops, the severe lack of gameplay loops of different kinds of professions, all those kind of things that have basically fallen to the wayside to some degree. And
I mean, weren't they supposed to be able to be giving us a mission, but to give us reputation to do another mission, and that system seems to be broke.
yeah,
I mean, they were talking about introducing that to us, and every time you go and talk to those people, they say hi.
Well, yeah,
Well,
I will. I've had that's been. I think those have been repaired by now. But the thing is that like generally speaking, like I was looking for the dynamic mission system through the whole Quanta system was one of the things I was looking forward to the most. Um, oh, I got a crazy idea.
oh,
Oh, I gotta try it. Can I get up on
no,
here?
no more clipping through
No,
fire.
hold on, hold on. Can I get up here? Come on. I'm sorry, I gotta try this, guys. Come on. There we go.
No,
There we go. All right. All right.
you're gonna eat a
No, no,
veggie
no, no,
burrito.
no, no, hold on. No. Okay, hold on.
It's the
I can do
ice
this.
cold coffee.
Let's go to the airport in the Violet special way.
Oh no.
I'm gonna see if I can drop on top of the car. Hold on, hold on, hold on. We can do this. We can do this. Hold on, hold on. I got some fun. Woo! Yes! No! Ow! No! Okay. No! Ah! Okay. That doesn't work. Sorry, guys. I had to try it. It just a stroke of brilliance just hit.
Oh, I also found
It,
out don't buy the ice cream cones
don't buy the ice cream cones.
because when you buy them, you can't do
Yeah.
anything with them.
All
You
right,
just
so here it
hold them.
says this is where we come to a conundrum of what happens when some players run up against a skill wall they can't go past, where game design needs to take this into account. There may be a few ways to fix this problem, one being make combat fun, another being allow players to use strategy and tactics during combat instead of just ship familiarity. Dynamic situation advantages such as space cops showing up or an escape into an asteroid field to avoid the enemy. Right. Uh, combat is... uh, it's your boy. It's your boy. It's actually getting a lot better. They still got a ways to go, but they're having a free fly week on Wednesday. Tell you what, why don't you could try it on Wednesday if you go to their website. You can download it and try it and see where it stands right now. They do free fly weeks every now and then to let you see the updates and experience it for yourself, and you can kind of follow the progress like that without actually having to do any backing. So if you want to go that route, I recommend just waiting until Wednesday and then ascertain for yourself. And it's getting better. They just need more gameplay loops and things like that. So, and they need to move things in. And this is what we talk about here. Yeah, no problem. Glad to do it. Yeah, make a free account, and you can use the referral code if you want to give you like 5,000 UEC. I know it was a shameless plug, but you're welcome to try it.
Free
And yeah,
UEC.
free in-game money, so you can maybe get some starting gear.
Oh, and a
Yeah,
Whamburger.
yeah. Don't if you're not certain yet, don't do any purchases. I'm a rather large backer because I've been a big fan of Chris Roberts for years, and I wanted to support what he's trying to do. But that's why we have this channel. We discuss basically the ins and outs of the development and talk about the good and the bad because I feel that's the best way to approach things, is to not ignore or white knight the game to death. Like
There's
not
too many
ignore
of the
this.
white knights
There's too
out
many white
there.
knights, and we got to talk about these things as they pop up, and keep the dialogue open because sometimes you feel like you just can't do that on the forums. So, yeah, good questions. You're always welcome to drop in and ask and see where things are standing. And I'll always do my best to give you my best opinion and go from there. Yeah, you enter that code when you sign up. So you're welcome to use it. No pressure either way. But yeah, so basically, I'm hoping that they don't go too far with the scripting thing, and they just kind of start letting the game's player base create this dynamic system. Um, I said there's nothing wrong with scripted events. They are enjoyable, and if they get enough of them going, you can have variations of themes in different systems, and there could be a lot of fun to be found. But I don't want everything to feel like, you know, that's the event you need to do because there's not enough to do outside of that. I want to be able to say, oh look, it's Xenothreat. I'm going to go do something else. Not because I don't like Xenothreat, just because I don't really feel like doing that today. Because there's lots of other cool stuff to do, and I'm going to go do that instead. Um, yeah, exactly. It's more of a tech demo, I would say. than an actual full-fledged game at this moment.
Yes.
We're still waiting on a lot of the gameplay loose, including dynamic mission system, server meshing with the full incorporation of iCache to allow basically everyone to be playing in the same effective server. Basically, it'll kind of open and close servers so people can mesh easier. The redo of the flight system, the full redo, is going to be scheduled sometime early next year. They already did part 1, part 2 is coming, including adding flaps and stuff to winged vehicles, atmospheric flight. We've got the cargo systems going to be coming online, including the physicalization of the cargo. There's all these things that they're doing that's not finished yet. So in the
Yeah, they're
meantime,
working on loot too.
yeah, the whole looting objects or looting people, taking like if you shoot some guy, you can take their equipment and their armor and all that. That's stuff they're working on. So there's still it's a very beautiful table currently with no drawers, or very few drawers. You need more, like a desk with just a couple. Everyone else, all the rest of them are still locked or whatnot. You can't get inside, but they always keep everything updated week to week, and you kind of see where they're developing, and they have a roadmap and all that. So, um, but yeah, there are tons of shelters. Of course, they're adding the shelters, the habs across the all the different planets as well. I'm hoping that some of these habs, by the way, are uninhabited and that you can buy one for yourself. Like you can go to a store and buy a hab and then basically move in. That would be awesome. Yeah, it does look. This is their newest planet. This is a Crusader. This is the entire planet's a gas giant with volumetric clouds. As always, there's no loading screens. I can fly from here to the atmosphere, though that would probably take like 30 minutes because it is huge. And all the clouds are volumetric. So as I said, they're actually not just 2D sprites. And that's why you're seeing the pink overlay because there's a cloud here you're in a cloud. And so yeah, there's still some things that were ironed out in the performance and stuff like that. But generally, you run
Yeah,
this.
the lore is that they use this technology to help them with ship construction.
Right.
Is the lower the 0G, the better. And so they took this technology and made this world. And this world is actually specializes in building ships for this particular manufacturer.
Yeah. So everything's kind of coming together. This is their newest offering. This is the last planet in the system that's now in, and from now on they'll probably be doing little additives, little additions that to finish fleshing out the system. But they're getting ready to release Pyro and Nyx as soon as I imagine they get server meshing online, and then we'll have multiple systems and go on from there. So
Chris Roberts has said that he does have a full-time staff working
mm-hmm.
on nothing but server meshing.
Yeah. And if you're going to get a package, I recommend a Mustang package, by the way. Or if you're going to step up from that, the Avenger Titan. Avenger Titan, I will say Avenger Titan to the end of time. Avenger Titan is the best Tier 2 starting ship in the game, hands down, dollar per dollar, dollar per donut. It does it all. It gets you cargo. It's got a hab so you can log out into bed. It maneuvers well. It's got solid weaponry.
Has one big gun in the nose.
Exactly. Avenger Titan. That's your best step-up ship.
And
that's
it looks
relatively
like
inexpensive.
A cross between a small space shuttle and a penguin. If you get the black and white.
Yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah, it's very much so. Yeah, here. I can just show them. I can just open up my thing here.
Yeah.
So I got all my ship list. I myself have like 53 ships and like 17 so on ground vehicles. So okay, so this is the this is a screen where you can basically modify. So the Avenger Titan. This is what it looks like. A little bit like a space shuttle. But this is the highest recommended starting ship that's past just like the Mustang or the Aurora. And of course, I have other different paints for it or whatnot. But this is my absolute highest
I
recommended.
forgot. Origin 100 is also the new starter. It's another starter ship from Origin.
So yeah, this is a good ship. I like this one. Really can't go wrong.
That ship has had so many reworks since the beginning of the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's gotten bigger. The interiors, it's been flushed out more, and it's also got visibility up the yin yang. Oh, it's got a huge amount of visibility in the cockpit.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the one right there. Yeah, I take that one out a lot when I'm playing solo, and I'll take out the Avenger Titan because it's absolutely just lets me do whatever. Cargo box missions, some limited cargo itself, gets me around combat. Yeah, police markings were nice.
It should do good in atmosphere too later on.
Yeah, because it's got wings and they do the SDF fields.
Yeah.
Yes, the SDF is signed distance fields. You're using that not only for force fields but for setting aerodynamics and lift properties. So there's a lot of different technology stuff that have been coming online. So let's go ahead and of course your conversation is open to whatever, but let me go ahead and jump over real quick to the next big update, which is something a lot of people have been begging for a while. Well, I don't know, let's say the word a lot of people, but at least enough vocal people. Let's go with that on the forums for a while. Uh, yeah, the quantum drive. Yeah, slower quantum drives travel longer than they do. The military ones they fast, but they
Yeah,
don't go
the
very far.
military ones go they get there
Yeah.
fast, but they burn up
Yeah,
like
industrial ones are solid because you get like 4 times the jump distance and burn less fuel, and you probably make it to where you're trying to go. And they are slower. That's the nature of it. So finally, people are getting kind of what they wanted there, and I mostly use Arena Commander as a testing ground to set up my controls. But of course, we have the Arena Commander remastered.
yay.
Now, what they're doing with Arena Commander is they are going back in and retooling. Now, they said that the Arena Commander, these new maps, are going to be 10 times the size of the current ones. Now, my question on that is it 10 times the volume or is it 10 times the length and width and height? See, I always called Arena Commander the 8 by 8 by 8 box because it's basically 8 kilometers by 8 kilometers by 8 kilometers, which is massively too small for a game with the speeds and hitting that boundary. I also hope they add a soft boundary where it starts to warn you to turn back as opposed to this hard wall. But basically, they said it's 10 times the size. So once again, if it's 10 times the dimensions, it's way more than 10 times the size by volume. If it's just 10 times the volume, obviously that changes. So we didn't get on specifics there. But what they're trying to do on each one of these maps is add, looks like roughly each one will have 3 different kinds of environments or changes in the kind of terrain that you're going to have there. Now, that's fine and all. And what I think Arena Commander definitely needs is more sophisticated objectives than just blowing people up. Because when you create objectives like this, you just create the whole pew pew mentality, circle strafing, stuff like that. It's not very it's a waste. Frankly, it's a waste. As I said, battles happen in the game are going to happen mostly at choke points. And those choke points are going to involve defending or attacking a particular target. Now, what they talked about years ago in Arena Commander was setting up something called Capture the Idris. So it's supposed to be one group of players was on the Idris and was going to defend it, and they were going to be I guess running the guns, and there would be some fighters and their group was going to be taking out the Idris and boarding it. I would like to see scenarios in these larger maps. It's okay to have the raw combat, not against that. But if you're going to have this kind of larger maps, then I would like to see them incorporate actual scenarios. Furthermore, what I'd like to see in Arena Commander is I'd like to see an atmospheric version. One where literally the lowest point is the ground, and you go you can say go 80 kilometers up, so you hit you can go to the boundaries of space itself, and then you set objectives in there. I want to see people actually dogfighting and practicing in atmosphere, because once again, as a test bed, we need to be able to test all the things that are supposed to be in the game, and that includes atmospheric flight, which is different than space flight. You can have different scenarios. You can have a higher gravity planet and a lower gravity planet, for example, to kind of see how the ships handle versus 2 Gs of gravity versus 1 G of gravity, and how dense atmosphere versus light atmosphere or thinner atmosphere with winged and SDF. You can have variables and random changes that come into it. Like it goes starts a match. It says here's the variables. It's like on the atmosphere one, like the atmosphere's thin and the gravity's heavy. You don't have to change the mass, but you can change the variables to try to see how things handle and how things interact with one another in a more interesting and unique way. Kind of the way that Back for Blood kind of does, where every round you have kind of these there's some randomization, that random objectives or random changes that kind of get rolled up for you. And I'm just kind of using that as a quick reference for many of those who have been testing the game recently. But you can have some randomization that does add some spice and some flavor to it. You do things like missiles have half the range or missiles have double. That's where you can play with different ranges and see how these things interact and get a different flow. So different kind of if you want to have the arcadish side of it. Then you can have the scenarios, of course, which are just the fixed, like this is exactly how it's going to be in the PU, which I would prefer. But if you're looking for something like I said, the game within a game, you can have some variation there. But at the very least, I'd like to see them testing and trying different things, even if it was done through a randomization, like a card that changes some of the factors, just so they get the feedback and the data. Like, what happens if we slow all the projectiles down 20%? Let's see what happens. Oh, okay, all projectiles are slower by 20%. And then they can take a look like, okay, now, wow, positional combat's becoming more heavily done because we changed this variable. Maybe we need to look into that. I like there needs to be some way where they can start testing things that are a little bit different, so we can get they can get feedback and then basically make the final choices that are going to go into the persistent universe. Um, let's see here. The Avenger is decent. Probably won't break the bank, but try out the Mustang Aurora, and I think the Pisces also get a package. Well, the Pisces is too interesting. Pisces isn't bad, but it's kind of weak in combat. It doesn't take a hit for Dink. You only need a Mustang Aurora to start. The Avenger is more quality of life upgrade, allows you to do some PvP. Not that's one. Yeah, well, it's also a quality of life upgrade. Lets you do. Yeah. I guess you could say yeah. It's not needed, but I'm saying if there was any step if you want to, that would be the one I'd recommend. AC needs multi-crew and a bunch of moons with different G's and atmospheres. Yeah. Okay, so we're in agreement there, Rattlehead. That's why I said the randomization cards. You don't have to like basically rework the maps. You can just change the variables within the map, right? And then from those changing those variables, you could try different scenarios. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to say. I may not be saying it very very well, but I hope that that the point is coming across. Multi-crew beaters. How about how about arena commanders where basically you have fully like for example, you have two teams of let's say it's 6 on 6. Okay, no 8 on 8, and what it entails is each side has two fully manned Connies. Now that means basically you have a pilot, two turret gunners, and a Merlin pilot, and each one of them there's two on each side. And then from there, and you have objectives, right? You have objectives you have to clear. So you're using multi-crew. You're having players balance shields, repair systems, flying the Merlin for whatever has to be done, whether it's engaging the other Merlin or engaging the other ship, and basically doing something like that to kind of have those slug it out. And you can do variations. I think back to the old Atari game Combat, where you'd have like the three World War II fighters attacking the one bomber, which always sucked because the bomber got his butt kicked. But the point is, though, is that there was a variation to theme on that game. You'd have a bunch of different combat scenarios, and you would just hit the select button and change to a different game, which was slightly just a variation on a previous theme. And anyway, so that's the kind of thing you could do. You could say, okay, well, I'm going to have two sets of Connies. If you said you wanted the Connie to survive against 3 Hornets, then you could say, okay, well, then let's just say that you have I don't know 4 Gladiuses on one side versus sorry 8 Gladiuses on one side and then 2 fully manned Connies, and then they could work together, 2 multi-crew ships side by side with their missiles and gunners and stuff like that, dealing with all the fighters. And then so I mean you could try these things and really just kind of step up the flexibility and the game modes and the types, and open up the game to people who want to try the multi-crew stuff as a viable way of doing PvP. And it's one of those things that don't make it just about the fighters, because that we've seen where that leads before, and always leads to the faster mentality that ultimately leads to poor flight design. So we need to keep all that incorporated. See here. See, settle down, Jars. You're using logical game design. Do you remember where you are? Do you need an orderly back to padded room? Well, yeah. Well, I am there. You know what? I'm looking at the hospital now. I'm going to head over to Orson. I'm going to check my.
Yeah.
I'm going to head to the hospital and check myself
Put
in.
him on the gurney.
So yeah. So this is. I mean, I'm happy to see. I'm happy to see them doing all this, changing the size. And I think it's something we've needed to see for a long time. Because maybe I won't have to call it the 8x8 box anymore, because I've been insulting it for a while, because it has been obsolete for the longest time, particularly since the first day they doubled the speeds of all the ships in the game. Now back because back in the day, all the ships flew at half the speeds they fly right now, and all the things were a lot more reasonable in the pacing, and then you just said, screw it, make everything twice as fast, and then throw interactive mode in and do all this other stuff, and it just kind of just the sound of a deflating balloon kind of flittering around the room was kind of all I heard. I'm not going to make the sound on the mic because that'll probably peak out the audio, but you get the general idea. It was just like, yeah, that was a bad move, guys. I'm going to check myself into the padded room now. All right, so yeah, you have a large ship with escorts slowly flying around map, leaving up to you how to sneak around and engage. Yeah, exactly. You can have all sorts, and they showed like they were showing like the gas clouds and things like that. They can incorporate signatures.
I just say with them now working on signatures and radar,
Mm-hmm.
and how they were talking about how they now have it where you can put a bunch of small ships around one larger ship, and it would conceal the small ships.
Right, or asteroids
Think
breaking
all
the
different new
scanning.
kinds of play that they can didn't practice with.
Right, or in the
Because they were
asteroids
talking
breaking
about,
contact, like on the
yeah,
sensors.
they're also talking about how they're going to do stuff also with the clouds and how that's supposed to affect also sensors. So this is all kind of new stuff which they could use this new game mode to test. And it'd be kind of neat.
Someone really had to go to the bathroom. They even dropped the gurney over.
Oh
I don't
no.
know. Let's see if I can fix this. Hold on. Can I get it? I don't know. It's just. I think it's a part of the scenery. I don't know. Anyway, the gurney's been knocked over. So press F for gurney. Um, so yeah, the in some regards, I think there's a lot of potential here for what they're doing. I'm just still concerned about the idea that they talked about two things. I think wasn't the there's been a lot of focus on PvP, which is fine to a degree, but I haven't. We really need to start seeing some gameplay loops for PvE, and I can't stress that enough. I log into Star Citizen. I enjoy it. I enjoy looking at things. I love looking at the art. I mean, I used to paint and draw, and I see this stuff. It's just it's gorgeous, and they did an amazing job. But man, if we can just
I
get the
just can't imagine how much work they spent. And this is just phase one
hmm
on this spot. And it's like, wow. And
yeah.
these guys, I hope they get enough praises because this when they first talked about this game, none of this that you're seeing here
Yeah, it was all supposed to be
was
zones, and you zone in and load to the next area. It wasn't supposed to be all non-load, straightforward into the game. You know,
with the plants.
right?
Just staring at the plants
hmm
and watching them move individually and the leaves coming
Yeah,
down
and
and the
hitting the
leaves moving
objects, actually
around.
just blowing
And
around
then
on
you
the
find out
objects.
they're using the same tech to do where your thrusters on your ship are coming down and stirring up the dust or the snow or whatever
hmm
the particles are on the ground. That's going to be with thrust vectoring. It's going to make that's going to be involved. The same thing with fire. You're going to have fire that's going to be able moved around and depending on the flow of the air or the current around it. Um, this is all stuff that, yeah, it's made the game run take longer in development, but it went from just being, I hate to say, a lot simpler to what it's becoming now. But I think the, I think the both Roberts and his brother are wanting to make this their grand opus.
Absolutely. Well, Aaron Roberts said that in an interview a long time ago, he thinks this is the last game he'll ever make with his brother, and he got pretty emotional about it. So, I think that's exactly what this is. But yeah, we talking about the when you were quantum traveling and you get dropped out. I'm so glad those are gone. Be honest with you. I hated those. I try to jump someplace and I get pulled out of quantum travel from like 50 asteroids between A and B, and I really, really despise those. I'm glad those are gone. They need to come up with something better than that. Like, oh, your sensors detect something, or if they have interdiction, fine. But I mean, but it should be. I shouldn't be constantly jumping into a rock. Like, oh, rock, another rock, another rock, another rock. It just kept happening. It was so obnoxious. Uh, but those kind of events should be rare. They should not be embraced as an everyday event. They should be like, oh, like there's a 1% chance when you're traveling between X and Y that you're gonna bump, because space is big. You're not gonna just bump into something every time you press jump. So I'm glad those are kind of gone.
Which still makes me scratch my head what they're trying to do with the interdictor gameplay. It's like they want purposely to be a bunch of choke points when everyone's going to try to find a way to not go to the choke point. Hence, stay away from Jita.
Well, yeah, you can make your way. You're gonna be able to make your way in Star Citizen
Yeah,
without having to rely on major hubs. And in fact, in a lot of regards, I mean, you want to work
I'm
the
still
out. You
waiting
want
on
to
the jump
effectively,
gates.
yeah, you want to effectively work the outer rim, work the outer. Yeah, the jump gates are going to be a problem because originally the
Yes,
jump gates are supposed to be that that the wormholes on both ends would migrate a bit. So so they would be like a location would be known. Or you have to scan it down to find the exact location of where it is today or whatever, and then you would jump and you would have to traverse the tunnel at least the first time, and I think they said the first time you have to pilot it, and after that it could be automated at your system. But that may have changed too. But anyway, so then you would come out at a random location. Like it would also the exit point would move. And what they showed in the pyro demo was 2 very fixed points, and that's once again a choke point. Now those places are going to have to be massively heavily defended with turrets and missiles and patrols, because if not, I mean, no one's going to be able to get in and out of those systems. Like, you're going to get cheated really bad
It
the first
sounds
time
like to
pyro
me
opens up.
what they're doing is the jump points are going to be general, and general because the planets are in orbit. And because the orbit's constantly changing,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have to come in into a general area all the time, then rescan, and then go. So the jump gates will get you into the system,
Mm-hmm.
but it won't get you exactly to your location because your location is constantly fluidly moving.
Well, the idea of the jump points moving it also kind of made them a little less able to be mined or to be. I mean, so obviously someone can scan down his current location and get out there and start doing whatever. But it wasn't something that could just be predictably constantly count. Constantly. And they could even randomize the when it changes. Like, okay, well, it's like it's constantly wiggling and jiggling, so to speak, to some degree. So like it'll snap to new exit point at a random time. So people can't. They need to make it so that. Okay, that was interesting. They need to make it so that basically it's not as easy to camp. Well, that was the original concept. Was that you wouldn't always jump to this? You wouldn't jump out. The entrance and exits would move. Think of it like hold the center of a like a tube, and then like a rubber tube, and then like just wiggle it around how the ends are going to flop around. So that was kind of like, the ends are moving and the center is relatively still. So basically, that was generally the concept, was that the ends were supposed to move, and then the inside you have to traverse the inside, and then the exit would be at a different location too. That was part of the. But then there are those that are fixed, like the ones I guess you see like with Pyro, that they have. I guess they may have stabilized them through some device. You saw that big jump gate and whatnot, but they need to make sure that both are available, because I don't want to have to go through. I don't want to have to go through the process of being bottlenecked. Because I can right now I see Pyro is going to turn into Abuse Land #1. That when the second Pyro opens up, you're going to see the PvP community sit on the other side of that gate. There's no laws. There's nothing stopping them. They're going to sit there. The second you're going to jump in there, you're going to get attacked by a lot of stuff. And that's going to be pretty annoying, because there'll be a lot of people, a lot of backers are going to want to see Pyro. And imagine, I mean, I might, first time I remember, and maybe the only time I get to see it for a while, might be Evocati, because, you're not supposed to attack each other during there for testing purposes. So,
Yeah.
unless it's explicit test or request kind of thing. Yeah, Ganktown 24/7. So, I can see them having stable gates and unstable gates. But anyway, aside from all that, Arena Commander, the update is welcome, and maybe it's the simplest thing they can update compared to the dynamic mission system, compared to putting together cargo and stuff like that. It's the quickest, easiest, dirtiest, thing that they can put together that adds something back into the game. But you also have to make sure the mechanics that are incorporated in that are representative of what you find in the persistent universe. It's the same reason I don't like Star Marine. The running gun instant respawn is not indicative of what you find in the verse. It would be better off if it was one and done, being that if you die, you're out of the round, more like Counter-Strike. People would move differently. They'd act differently. Can I drop down here? I'm going to try.
I can't believe I am walked up to a tree. I zoomed in on the tree bark to look at the moss.
Mm-hmm.
Just look at these small leaves growing on the moss.
You could put a golf course
They're
in.
moving with the wind too.
Mm-hmm.
Who would notice this unless you zoom right in and put your face on the tree?
Yeah.
This is details that I didn't have to do.
Yep, I see it.
Wow.
No, Jumptown 2.0 won't work the way they say it will.
No,
One they
it's
think
not
it will. It
going
will
to.
not. You can't force a scripted event to be the same quality as a player's dynamic event. Creating bugs on purpose. Have a giant bubble shoot out that kills anything from the exit point which touches it before the player goes through. Yeah, I mean, maybe. there's different possibilities. I just hope that there's defenses at the gates, like massive defenses. They don't expect you to walk back here, so they don't expect like, this is like not a very this is a very sharp trend. Like you can see the how it's actually I love when you see the texture do this because this is actually a 2D texture with the bump mapping, so you can see it looks 3D, but it's actually not. That's interesting. It's interesting for me to look at that kind of how the art tricks that are found, because you can see this is all art tricks. Come on.
I still haven't found my butterflies.
Come on. I'm a dead man, right? I mean, this is no way out of this for me. Oh, there's my brother. All right, so yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's different solutions that can present themselves, and I think people should talk about those when it comes to how to resolve the issues of not being, abused. And as a problem too, with the more rules you create against for a player base to prevent things, the more loopholes you kind of create. Just kind of bunching up a bunch of string and throwing it on the ground. You're going to create more and more, more and more loopholes as opposed to less. The Orison suicide call. I think it's anyone who actually lives here. I don't know. I feel like I should have the Millennium Falcon like underneath there, and I should have like like I should be
Open
dangling.
up the top hatch.
Yeah, dangling underneath like Luke. I feel like I might need that. But yeah, so anyway, guys, so I think that's really kind of wanted to talk about a bit. Is I'm glad that the PvPers are going to be getting the update to Arena Commander. I just hope that they don't go down the same road, and I hope they start using these larger environments and like the volumetric clouds and things like that for the more complex systems. You know how you'll know if they're doing it the right way or moving in the right direction. You'll hear a lot of complaints in the PvP community. If they're going in the right direction with the proper pacing and thing, oh, you can get off that, great. You'll get a lot of complaints that it's moving too slow and stuff like that. Yeah, 10 times the size. But once again, yeah, is it volume or is it dimensions? They didn't specify, so doesn't take as much to do 10 times the volume, but the raw dimensions would lead to greater than 10 times the volume. So we'll see which direction that went, because then the volume will be really massive. But yeah, we need variables. We need them to make sure that what they're putting out in both Star Marine and Arena Commander represents the final product in mechanics. It doesn't, and a test bed is not a test bed that does not line up with the mechanics that you're trying to test. And that's just to me, that, and it should be to anyone. That's very basic. You don't, like I just got done playing. I said that the Back for Blood beta, right? I mean, if the mechanics of the beta that I was testing aren't close to what the mechanics of the final game are going to be, then there was no purpose to that test. It was completely wasted. It was just seeing if the game crashed or not at certain spots for graphics, which would be kind of like what I've been doing now. Exactly. No, yeah, absolutely agree. 30-second outbound warning. Absolutely, it needs a soft warning zone. I've hated the hard wall for years. I completely agree with that.
Insta-death.
You know what you could also do if you really want to be stupid about it? Think of an Arena Commander. You're going to kill me for saying this. An Arena Commander PUBG variant where the arena gets smaller and smaller, but the barrier starts coming in, like over time. So it's like, you have this gigantic area, and then the area starts to shrink over time, and eventually everyone's kind of down around the central station, and they're all fighting around the station because there's not much room to maneuver anymore. So you're all kind of like piled up around, maneuvering through all the beams and stuff, because you're now it's raw maneuvering and getting. Yeah, well, exactly, well, kind of like that, or PUBG or whatever. But yeah, you take the gigantic area and you start moving in the barricade, if you will, and it's just like and then everyone kind of gets the remaining people. And this, of course, to make this work, you have to have it so that when people die, they're out. That the same kind of thing as PUBG or Fortnite, right? They die, they're out. So over time, it shrinks. You're searching each other with scanning and hiding and mechanics, and that way stealth ships can come in and have an advantage. And eventually, you start ramping it down, ramping it in, and then and then boom, you know. And imagine like, okay, you're a stealth ship, like let's say a Saber Raven, and you manage to make it all the way to the end, and like now you're flying around the station, like and now you're popping EMPs. You don't have the firepower to kill your enemies. You EMP them so they smash into the station or whatever. So like you're attacking in a different kind of way because you're trying to stay under the radar, and you just EMP. What is it? I don't know. That might be kind of fun. That might be something that would be interesting. I don't know. Maybe not, but I mean they could do fun things with it with a larger area anyway. Yeah, that's interesting. Have the wormhole actually disrupt shields and targeting systems and everything when a wormhole opens or closes. That'd be interesting. So this way, when a wormhole opens, that people are camping it all their equipment is disabled by like a large electromagnetic disruption. That would be interesting. Of course, you'd have people just park outside the range of that and then quickly move in and deal with everyone got disabled for the most part. And there's always a play around on that, but it's not a terrible idea. It could be worked out, I think, to some degree. But I think that most of the fixed jump gates need guns, lots and lots of guns, like Matrix style. You know, I need guns and just turrets everywhere. You know, I think that might be the best way to go. Yeah, affect anything within the instance. Yeah, that might be a huge effect. The entire solar system. That'd be kind of big. Yeah, Star Marine with bots, man. How about letting us test their ground AI, right? How about you want to test their AI for their ground combat? How about just having players versus you could just run. You could run with a squad of 4 friends against waves of enemy AI or something. There's all sorts of different things you could do, different modes that you can do with these, Star Marine, and with you can do Star Marine that's not in a map in a building, right? You can have a Star Marine where it's a village. You have these habitations, right? You set the habitat. I know we're all dealing with theaters of war, but I'm talking like a smaller scale. Like just there you have an area that you're operating in, and there's a town, and you have to go out and clear a town of bad guys, right? And so you set the town as randomized on a planet that like you say, okay, it's gonna be a Daymar. You're using the Daymar textures. It's gonna put down this series of houses here. That's randomized. The NPCs are randomized. You get a group squad of 4. Your thing is to clear out the town, and then you can kind of practice with not only how the AI works, but also how you set the pacing and things like that. So this plays a lot more like Arma now. Like, oh great, now we're finally achieving something worth a dang, as opposed to Quake, which is not what we want. I just think they need to start, if they're going to do this, they need to play with some of the options to make sure that they can honestly test things that we're going to see, scenarios that we're going to see, the way that people are going to play in the persistent universe, or this test bed is not one. I guess it's just the easiest way to say all of it. Just make sure it lines up with the final intent. And nothing says you can't make fun modes. I mean, like here's a standard mode, and then here's like this goofy mode that you put out there for other players who don't just want to have something that is something more arcadey. There's lots of games that have different variable modes, but we definitely need a solid test bed. Let's see here. Okay. You mean like the area around where the meshing is? Okay, gotcha. Use a security station to spawn men and waves and from rooms on the station. Yeah. Marine Commander mining, great for teaching people mechanics at the risk of need to own the ships. That's true. Absolutely. Yeah, you use Arena Commander just as a mechanic, and that's what I use it for. I go into the free fly and I set up my controls, and I test if all the buttons work, and I test if everything is moving the right way. Because sometimes when you have a new build, your controls stop working, and then you have to this axis is reversed. It's much better to go into Arena Commander, set to free fly, test everything in there before you get into the persistent universe, because this way you've got everything set exactly the way you want it, and you don't try to take off from the pad and explode, or at least explode less. But yeah. Anyway, guys, so that's just some of our thoughts, I think, about the idea. I don't think they can replicate a dynamic system with a scripted one. I think that's pretty much we're in agreement there. And I'm happy to see Arena Commander getting updated. I'd be happier if they made it so that actually represented the game and not just align themselves to the Pongo cluster, as we like to call them. And make sure that's actually a real representation of what all this is going to be. Otherwise, you can keep it. because it's
I
absolutely
mean,
it's
why go
pretty
into all this
pointless.
work for all this art if they just want us to be shooting each other all the time? There's
Yeah,
got to be a
exactly.
reason to go to different places and just walk around and
Exactly,
explore.
and that's why you have to have these other scenarios that you test other variables, other kinds of combat between different kinds of ships. Otherwise, everything gets too focused in one direction again, and
How many different
we've
games
been
I've
down this
played
road.
where I do a little bit of combat just for money and then go out and do some other
You
stuff.
should.
And I do this stuff for a while and then I get tired and then break it up, do some combat. But not don't make it exclusively combat. People are I'm sorry, I've seen too many people in groups
Yeah,
go screw up a game because they've decided they want nothing but combat. And after a few months, they go, "We're bored with this game. Time to screw
that's
another game up."
exactly. So they need more depth. And Railhead, you do make a good point. I saw it earlier too, but uh, basically, yeah, Jumptown was created by a bug, effectively.
Yep.
So they're creating an event that replicates roughly what a bug did. So they're scripting like you said, they're scripting a bug because the bug was more interesting than the not bug portion of the game. I think that's funny. So that is kind of clown world right there. Uh, so yeah, and also bring up that of course, obviously with the Hangout stream on Wednesday, which is 4 p.m. Eastern time, and the Sucking at Fallout First, or Fallout 1, I should say. Fallout First is a subscription on 76. Fallout 1 on Thursday at 4 p.m. and the Hangout on Friday. And once again, I just want to thank you, Hero. I did enjoy playing Back for Blood with you the other day. I know we had trouble getting you through level 1 because you kept crashing the exact same spot. But once we found out you could rejoin, we got you past that spot. It seemed to work pretty well. You crashed a few more times, but clearly that last mission needs to be redone so we actually fight something because it was just loading the cannon and shooting it like 5 times. I think we killed like combined 4 dudes. But other than that, I mean, it looks like the game's got potential. It was a lot of fun, and I hope that they continue it down the road because I think there's a, I think the pacing and stuff it felt like a little bit better than Left 4 Dead, um, in some regards. So, that's your street fighting games developed from combos from bugs too. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a fair point. Combos on fighting games developed from bugs. That's a valid point. So sometimes you can accidentally step into something good. Something, can't wait for the 30K weapon. Oh, don't worry, that'll be a clip. That'll be an add-on to our utility tool.
Which
Um,
hotkey will we
yeah,
put that on?
yeah, that'll be on our utility tool. We'll just go ahead and throw it on our hip here, and we'll just go ahead
Oh,
and equip that. It'll be right next to the tractor beam gun. It'll be the 30K
yeah. I
gun.
was gonna say the tractor beam gun that's turned in from a tractor beam to healing gun to mining gun to laser cutting gun. One will have a 30K attachment to it. How many batteries will it take to 30K a server?
Goodness.
Ammo forever. It's like
All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming out today. I really appreciate it, and I hope this has been an interesting discussion for you. And I would like to, I'm going to continue monitoring it on the forums and whatnot. We'll have to see ultimately what happens when the rubber meets the road, um, but
every
I'm
time you
hopeful.
say that, I see Meatloaf singing it.
That's true. But on that note, I think it's time that I go skydiving, and
Oh boy,
we'll go ahead and catch you
we
next
don't have
time on.
parachutes in the game
We,
yet.
those require technology that hasn't been developed in 800 years in the future. So,
They've hinted that they're going to give us some sort of
yeah,
metal parachute
yep.
or something.
So, I guess we'll go ahead and catch you next time, and I'm out. Oh, wait, I still. Oh, there we go. Woo! I believe I can fly. Later, guys.
It's time to go collect him in a Star Runner.
Indeed. Bye.
Bye bye.